readers,
reviewers,
countrymen,
lend us your ears.
Good morning, evening all. Welcome to the Brothers Gwyn channel. Today, me, Ed, and my brother William are going to do a little book haul for you. So,
you say little.
Little. Well, we have I think we have 15 books each, don't we? So
yes.
it's a nicely sized book haul. But we're really excited. So many nice books. Some of them, or a couple of them, we might have read already. But we just really want to show them off on the channel.
Or we've got new editions of them.
But yeah, we definitely want to show them off on the channel because we just think they're lovely. And you know, we're all geeks and nerds, aren't we? In the best possible way. So let's get on into it. William, do you want to kick us off?
All right, I will kick us off. I'm just going to start off with Papa Gwyn's, the recent release of The Hunger of the Gods, which of course we've read. I see that's also on Ed's list, I imagine, because he's got 3 copies up here. So he has added to his library 3 times with 1 book. I mean, that is a great sales technique, isn't it? You fill the cover through 3 different books. Now you just have to buy all 3. But yeah, Hunger of the Gods, out by Papa Gwyn, the 2nd instalment in the Bloodsworn Saga. And it's awesome. So if you haven't already, check it out.
Check it out now. And the next one for me is, well, the first one for me is, this is Boudica. This is book 3. It's called Dreaming the Hound, and it's by Manda Scott. Now, I've already read the first 2 books of this series, which hopefully I'll be talking about a lot more on the channel, because I've recently utterly fallen in love with them. That's are about
one word for it.
Boudica. And you know, I'm sure you know the tale of Boudica. I won't say anything about that if you don't know. But Manda Scott is an amazing writer. She really captures the whole Celtic sense and the mythology behind all of the characters. The characters are amazing, and the use of animals in this. If
That's
you like
the main thing you've talked to me about. It's about the characters,
yeah,
and also the animal companions.
If you like animal companions, then you'll love this series. It is historical fiction, so you might not have tried much of that if you're into fantasy or sci-fi. But I think if you do like fantasy, there's lots of fantasy elements in this. Like she's very big on dreaming, which is like a type of vision, and it really comes into play through the characters. But I won't hark on it anymore.
Well, actually, Papa Gwyn said that out of every historical fiction series he's read, this actually feels like fantasy because of how epic it is.
Yeah,
it could fit easily into a fantasy world because of that scale. And so yeah, so if you haven't tried out any history before, please, we implore you, give it a go, and maybe this is the one to begin with.
Maybe.
Next one for me. So I have read The Blade itself, but I have to show off this new edition with sprayed edges, and it has been done by The Broken Binding, a special edition, limited print run of 1,500 copies, signed, and give me a second to find it, signed and numbered. Look at that, it's pretty awesome. And yeah, so it's the original covers. It's Joe Abercrombie, The First Law, one of my favourite books of all time, one of my favourite series of all time. And yeah, the blade itself is just awesome, and it's great to have it in a hardback because obviously I read this last year and I think it'd already been out 14 years by the time I read it, so obviously didn't have a hardback, but now I do.
And the next one
the
for
right
me
has been wrong.
Is the Saga of the Volsungs, and it is by Dr. Jackson Crawford. Now, Jackson Crawford is a big YouTuber who I follow. He's all into his Old Norse studies. So definitely go check out his videos if you want to learn a little bit more about Old Norse and the mythology and the language. I think Dr. Philip Chase could probably give him a run for his money, but great people to go follow, great people to watch on YouTube. It's absolutely fascinating. And this is the Saga of the Volsungs. If you've heard of Sigurd and Fafnir the Dragon, aka the Hobbit, then this is the kind of the original of the Hobbit, where and also mixing with Beowulf as well. But yeah, the Saga of the Volsungs, great original text, and Dr. Jackson Crawford has translated it himself. So I'm really looking forward to reading that, and I think it does have the Saga of Ragnar Lothbrok as well. So I'm looking forward to getting into that one. And next up, I have The Wolf Den by Elodie Harper. I have not read this yet, and the sequel, I believe, comes out. It might have already come out when this video is released, but for us, it comes out in a few weeks. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to diving into The Wolf Den. It is historical fiction, and it is set in Pompeii. So very interesting. And I believe the perspective, it might maybe numerous, but it's a group of women in Pompeii. Obviously very interesting with the culture, women being seen as less than men. And yeah, I think it'd be very interesting. Apparently, Lady Harper explores that gender gap very well, and especially in a setting such as Pompeii is really interesting to me. So yeah, The Wolf Den has intrigued me. And one here for me is a very nice special edition from The Broken Binding, which is an amazing indie bookstore here in the UK. And it is Prince of Thorns by the great Mark Lawrence. Now, Prince of Thorns was one of the very first fantasy books I read. And it just absolutely knocked me for six. I adored it. I loved it. It was so dark and visceral and poetic.
I remember you read it just before you had exams, and it was you got obsessed with it, and I think that did detract from your exams slightly. But
I have a tendency
you had your priorities
to procrastinate. It's not a bad thing, to be honest. It's a skill, I think. I think not enough teenagers nowadays learn how to procrastinate really, truly perfectly. And I did it by reading fantasy. So there you go then. But yeah, it's a lovely edition, sprayed edges. I love the new cover as well. And I remember now the cover artist called Jason Chan. So thank goodness I remember that, because in our last video it was really upsetting me. I couldn't remember his name, but it's a phenomenal piece of artwork. The covers are great. Mark Lawrence is an even better human being than his covers are, so go check him out.
And next up I have the complete stories from Edgar Allan Poe. So this isn't his poetry, which he is also very famous for. It's just his short stories, and as you can tell, he wrote quite a few. I think this is 1,000 pages long. Very small text. So I've read quite a few in this yet, but I've not gone from back to finish it. As of yet, I've just picked a few as they've intrigued me, caught my eye, a few that I've heard
What's
about
your favourite
before.
so far?
The Telltale Heart, probably. Very, very short, but a very interesting core to the story about someone hearing a heart beating and how it drives them to do some unusual things, but
that's one word.
That's one way to say it. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to reading a few more, and this is a really nice edition. Pretty hefty. I like it when a book is quite hefty in the hands. You know, feels quite cool.
Looks dangerous as well.
Adds to the experience.
The next one for me is the great Stephen Pressfield's A Man at Arms. Now, this is another historical fiction tale written by Stephen Pressfield, who did Gates of Fire. As you will know, it's one of my favourite books, that about the Spartans at Thermopylae. And A Man at Arms is moving over to Roman historical fiction, and I'm just certain that it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. It came out last year. They've got a lovely hardback edition, and I'm sure that Stephen Pressfield will have blended this with fantastic historical details, great characters, and as always, his amazing prose. So shout out to Stephen Pressfield.
And next up, I have the released in February, The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan. So a new fantasy release. I believe it got onto the Sunday Times bestsellers, so it's been very successful. I heard a lot of book bloggers and booktubers say really great things about this, and as you can tell from the bookmark, I've just begun this. I'm about 20 pages in, and it has me hooked. Very intriguing. There's a lot I want to know. Richard Swan is very good at dangling something mysterious at you, but not revealing the full story as of yet anyway. So I'm really looking forward to carrying on with this. And also, really like the cover. Orbit always do some great covers, don't they?
Yes, they do.
They do.
And the next one for me is a great book. I've already read this, but I just had to show everyone because how happy I am with it. And it's called Men of Terror by William Short. Now, William Short is the founder of the Herstwick Viking group over in North America. They've got a great YouTube channel, and they're producing some fantastic videos and research as well, primary research, which is great. And also writing some fantastic books. Now, this is kind of an updated version of a book they published I'm not sure how long ago, but I think in the early 2010s, maybe even earlier. And it's about Viking Age combat. So this is a great book. It's a great tool for writers or people who want to dive into the historicalness of the Viking Age a bit more. All about the weaponry and combat. And it kind of gives a breakdown of all the weapons, you know, all of the different names used in literature. And there's so much research here. There's so many footnotes. And they have a great recommended reading list in the back. So for that alone, I would go out and get this. But it's got some wonderful pictures and some really intriguing thoughts that are created by people kind of actually testing this out, the experimental archaeology, which I'm really interested in. So yeah, Men of Terror, great looking cover, great book as well.
And next up, I have the folio edition of The Colour Purple by Alice Walker. It's such a beautiful edition. So I read The Colour Purple a few years ago now. Oh, that's weird. Wow, I feel old now. Yeah, and I absolutely loved it. Well, it was quite a harrowing read, but it's something that I think it's exceptional, and I would really like to read it again. And the experience, I think, is something that most people need to read this at some point in their life. It's just one of those, it's a classic for a reason kind of thing. And I believe there's a film, I think Spielberg did the film, and it made quite a few people's careers. But anyway, I've not watched the film. The Colour Purple, so in case I imagine most people know, but it is a tale about, so set in America in the South, I forgot which decade, in the 20th century. And it is about racism and sexism and how the values of America at that time, how it affected certain people. And Alice Walker writes an amazing, compelling story about a group of people who go through so much torment and trauma, but still they try to be good people, and it's just really exceptional. I can't really go much more into it than that without spoiling anything, or I'm not really doing it justice, but The Colour Purple, you really should try it out. And I saw the folio edition, and I had to get it. I didn't want to, I had to.
You had to. Necessity. And
it was
purple's a great
necessity.
colour, so...
It is a brilliant colour. Now, just let me struggle putting this back in.
You'll be there
Talks
for
about
a
his
few
next
years.
book.
The next one for me, I've got a couple here actually that are linked, so that's why they come out together. But the first one is Conan the Adventurer, and while I've been away, I've hit my Conan phase, and I've just about passed my Conan phase. But boy, was it a fun journey. I've read every Conan story written by Robert E. Howard, and I've also read the the Decamp as well stories as well that he edited. Look at the cover, Frank Rosetta. Amazing. I actually have a picture of this on my wall. I adore it so much. It's probably my favourite fantasy painting, favourite fantasy artwork out there. And the book as well is fantastic. It links nicely into my volume 1 collection here of Robert E. Howard Conan stories, illustrated, beautiful. There's 3 editions of this, three volumes, and I'm looking forward to getting the hardcover as well, which is the Chronicles of Conan, which has it all together. But I absolutely love Robert E. Howard's writing. It's absolutely superb. Conan is a great character. I mean, obviously it was written quite a while ago, so to me the writing doesn't feel dated, but I think the content can feel a little bit dated with kind of the character arcs. But it's a list of short stories basically, as Robert E. Howard said that he didn't write it chronologically. He imagined as if he was sitting down with Conan in a pub, in a tavern, let's say, and imagine that he was listening to Conan tell his stories. And when you talk to someone, if you're having a drink or something, you're just telling a story, you don't usually start chronologically. You just kind of start where the conversation flows. So it has a great blend of humour alongside with very dark violence and dark writing and all things dark. Sometimes he takes himself a little bit too seriously, Conan. But I mean, he has a troubled brow with a crown on top of it. So what can you say? But great writer.
I know Mike Book Reviews loves Conan, doesn't he?
Yes,
So it'd
he
be
does.
interesting maybe at some point to talk to him about that.
Yeah, you recently watched Conan the Barbarian. Me and Dad rewatched it with you, didn't we? And just such a good film. I love it. I need to watch The Destroyer again soon. I think there's a few good action set pieces in there, but not quite to the level of Conan the Barbarian. But anyway, I'll shut up now.
Thanks, Ed.
Actually, one more thing. When I was in my Conan phase, I replayed Skyrim and I made Conan on Skyrim. And it was just awesome.
It would be fair to
Barbarian.
say you were addicted.
If I had long hair, again, I'd definitely cut it like Conan. What a guy. What a guy.
Style choice.
Anyway.
Next, I have Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. This has been a recent phenomenon in the book world, hasn't it? Over the last year.
Yes.
It's won so many awards, so many people have heard about it. It's part of this recent reawakening of the Greek retellings, isn't it? Which are so popular at the moment. You've got Song of Achilles, Circe, both by Madeline Miller. And then you've got Stephen Fry's retelling.
Electra coming out.
Electra,
as well.
also by Jennifer Saint. And then there's a book called Pandora coming out, and I think Ithaca as well. And the list
There's definitely
goes
some more
on
that we're missing.
and on,
yeah.
yes. And Ariadne, it's been really praised in all book circles, really. It's meant to be really enjoyable, but it's got a bit of a very thoughtful, deeper edge as well. But it's quite subtle, so it's not overbearing. And it's just meant to be a really fantastic, original retelling from the perspective of Ariadne, who I believe is... who goes to fight the Minotaur? The name will pop up. I'm
right
really
there.
disappointed that I've forgotten. But this is the woman he falls in love with. And so, it's from her perspective, very interesting take. And so, I'm really looking forward to finding that out.
Wait, I've got to look this up. Theseus, of course.
Theseus. And I said maze instead of labyrinth. Very nice dramatic throw of the phone there, Ed. And yeah, thank you for looking it up. That would have overrun the entire video.
That
I
would
was
just
just
kill me
thinking about that.
Absolutely. Anyway, on to the next one for me is Taikai, written by Eiji Yoshikawa. Now, I think Eiji Yoshikawa has done a kind of biography of Miyamoto Musashi, who was a phenomenal samurai in the 16th or 17th century. I actually have a tattoo of Miyamoto Musashi on my leg, so I probably should know what century he's from. But he wrote the Book of Five Rings, which is kind of a martial artist's code of ethics and morals, and talking about discipline and the kind of the most important things that a martial artist, a fighter, or a person needs to have, the values and qualities. But anyway, Taiko is the story of war in feudal Japan, and I believe it follows some very key figures in the Sengoku Jidai period. If you played Shogun 2 or Shogun 1, Total War, then you'll know what I'm talking about. But I think it follows Oda Nobunaga and some other characters similar to those as well. But yeah, I've heard great things about his writing. It's a bit of an epic. I think it's roughly 1,000 pages long. Yeah, roughly 1,000 pages. And I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into it, because the last great Japanese epic I read was Shogun by James Clavell. And it's really time that we encountered another one. Yeah, I think this was from the 50s, to be honest. But just look at the cover. I love Japanese artwork, and I'm really looking forward to this.
Very nice, Ed. And the next I have is A Time for Swords by Matthew Harvey. Recently, the months we've been away, I've read 3 Matthew Harvey books now. The Wolf of Wessex, a standalone with a bit of a mystery thriller aspect to it, set in the Dark Ages, I thought was brilliant. And I've also read the first 2 installments of the Benicio Chronicles, which is cracking up to be a great series. And I believe A Time for Swords is also Dark Ages historical fiction, but following someone different. So
is this Lindisfarne as well?
I
think it
don't
is.
know. It might be.
This is the tale of Lindisfarne.
And the second installment was released just a few weeks ago.
Good.
And so yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading A Time for Swords. I'll probably read a few more in the Benicio Chronicles first, and then I'll come along to this. But yeah, I've got it waiting for me, and I've got the other hardback as well. So yeah, on my shelf.
Very nice. And the next one for me is Jose Saramago's Blindness. Now, this was gifted to me by a dear friend of mine, so thank you to them. And this book is about an epidemic where some people start to go blind, and it becomes sort of a contagious thing, and then eventually this whole city is blind, and there are gangs roaming.
Sounds pretty grimdark.
It's pretty grimdark. So they obviously knew that I like that kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to reading this. But apparently it's a classic. I think I looked up on Goodreads and it had millions of reviews, and I can't believe I've never even heard of it until a few months ago. So yeah, this is definitely high up on my list when I want to read something, the road level of depressing.
As you do every now and then. And next I have Illborne by Daniel T. Jackson. This has been a recent self-published phenomenon, hasn't it?
That is a thickums book,
phenomenon.
Isn't it?
It is very thick, and I actually have a signed edition from the Broken Binding.
I presume the author.
Yes,
like a random
from the Broken Binding, and yes, so
Simon Cowell.
This is going to be a great read, I think. I've heard basically all I've heard is great things. It's fantasy. I should have said that first, shouldn't I? Really. Yeah. And basically, this is another one I know almost nothing about, and sometimes I really like to just dive in without knowing anything. I think this is one where I will do that. It may be a little while yet before I get to it, but I certainly will at some point.
It must be good because it has Anduriel on the front cover, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So. There we go. It must be fantasy. The next one for me is The Whisperer in Darkness. Now, this is a H.P. Lovecraft collection of short stories, Volume 1. Everyone knows about Lovecraft. I don't really know much about Lovecraft, apart from, people say Lovecraftian. Oh, that's pretty Lovecraftian. I was like, what are you on about? So now I know. Well, I haven't read it yet, but I will know very soon. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to reading this. Apparently, he's kind of the king of gothic horror, which is right up my street. I recently read lots of Poe short stories. And I think Poe and Lovecraft might be a little bit in the same vein.
Lovecraft, I think, was inspired by Poe. I think it went... A lot of people say that the 3 kind of really seminal writers were Poe, and then he inspired Chambers, who wrote the Yellow Wallpaper and that collection.
Yeah. The King in Yellow.
Exactly. And then after that... Yeah, not the Yellow Wallpaper. That's Charlotte Perkins Gilman. Sorry about that. The King in Yellow.
You sounded really clever for about 2 seconds. Then
it's got yellow in it. And then next
the yellow flower.
I'm just going to carry on.
Chamberlain.
And then
Chamberlain or Chambers?
Chambers. And then next you have Lovecraft. That's my belief anyway.
And it's yellow, so
There must be something about that. Yellow, gothic, not sure. Might have to research that.
I don't know. I think goths wear black.
Right. And next up, I have a Shakespeare play. This is another folio edition when I was getting the yellow wallpaper.
What a show!
Oh my goodness! What is my obsession with the yellow wallpaper? When I was buying the colour purple, it's these colours. They're throwing me off. They're really throwing me off.
The colour yellow and the purple.
Whilst
wallpaper.
I was at it, I also purchased Coriolanus, which is a play I have not read. I've seen clips from the film, which it's got Ralph Fiennes, isn't it?
Ralph Fiennes, Jared Butler.
Very nice.
I've only seen the first 2 minutes.
I've seen the last scene. Weird. There we go. That spoils it slightly, but yeah, I do love myself some Shakespeare.
Is it a good last scene?
Really good last scene, actually, and without any context, so it must be really good when you actually know what's going on. But Coriolanus, I'm really looking forward to reading this. It sounds like it's right up my street. A Roman general, I believe, who is going out of favour slightly after having a very decorated career, and it's a bit of a question, what do we do with him? And so yeah, really looking forward to reading this. Not read some Shakespeare for a while.
Sounds like a comedy to me, doesn't it?
So this, or yeah, most definitely this, or
no
Hamlet.
one is harmed in the making of this book.
Of course, with a Roman general falling out of favour who is pretty bloodthirsty, no one's in danger.
Yeah, Romans were nice people. Talking of Romans and talking of Shakespeare, we have Titus and John.
Oh my, we timed that perfectly.
Yeah, we did. I haven't read this play yet, but I really need to. The only plays I've read of Shakespeare is Macbeth and, and Hamlet. I don't think I've read Romeo and Juliet, obviously.
Romeo and Juliet.
I've read 3. This would be my 4th.
You've not done any of the comedies?
No, I don't like laughing.
Wow. So they never did that with you at school?
No, we did Romeo and Juliet at school. And then
That's
we
the only
moved
one
on
you
to
did?
Mice and Men. Yeah.
Wow. We did one a year.
Oh, you're right, don't you? What a show off. Okay. Anyway, Titus and John apparently is Shakespeare's bloodiest play, and again about a Roman, I believe. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. That's all I can say.
Yeah,
Sounds
well,
wicked. It's a great name as well, Titus and John. Coriolanus.
It does roll off
well.
the tongue, doesn't it? Pretty nicely. And next up, I have a fantasy favourite of so many fans, and I believe and imagine that everyone who hasn't read it yet has heard of it in the fantasy community, and that is Guards by Terry Pratchett, part of the Discworld world. Who? Terry Pratchett. So I believe this is the first instalment of one of his mini-series in the Discworld world. I have recently read Mort, which I thought it's just so amusing. I just loved it. It was so funny. Putting Mort, an apprentice to death. How is he going to adapt to that? It's pretty funny, and he's coming from like the normal world, so it's very amusing, very quirky, and it seems to follow. So I've read Good Omens, which Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett co-wrote, and it's got that quirkiness with it. I mean, it's got a turtle carrying a weld on its back, which has got elephants also carrying a disc. What do you expect? And Guards is.
I think the only person who can get away with that is Terry Pratchett, probably.
Yeah, probably. And Guards, I think, is most people's favourite, actually. So I'm really looking forward to reading this. And yeah, I really like these editions as well, these new hardcover editions that they've done.
Yeah, they're lovely, aren't they?
Pretty nice.
Are they from Folio, or are they...
No, just the standardised hardback.
Very nice. Cool.
Very nice.
And the next one for me is Stephen King's 11/22/63. Sounds awesome. I can't remember actually what it is. Is it about JFK? Yeah, it is.
Yes,
it has
it
a
is.
picture of JFK.
That's the date.
I remember reading like the synopsis or seeing. I think it was on Mike Book Review's Discord, and some people were raving about it. So I was like, yeah, I've got to check this out. But I mean, it's pretty thickums, isn't it? But
so it's the date of his assassination, I believe.
There we go then.
That was in 1963.
And I don't really know. I can't remember now, to be honest, what happens in the book apart from that. Obviously, I haven't read it, but what the synopsis really was. But because I bought this so long ago, but I thought I had to show this off because I definitely want to read a lot more Stephen King. I've done Salem's Lot. I've done quite a few of his short stories.
Different seasons.
Different seasons, that's it.
Your turn to mess up the title.
Yeah, my turn.
1 point
Apt
back.
Pupil just blew my mind.
The Body.
Shawshank. Yeah, Body.
Is Shawshank in that one?
Yes, it is. But Apt Pupil was my favourite short story by Stephen King.
Wow.
I love the film of Stand By Me. That's my favourite film, I think, of Stephen King. Oh, apart from Shawshank Redemption, obviously.
The Green Mile?
I don't know. It's just too sad, mate. It's too sad.
What, and Shawshank... wait, Apt Pupil, is that happy?
I haven't seen the film, but it's certainly not happy.
Exactly.
The story is great, but I couldn't watch Green Mile. It's like... Imagine, like, stabbing your eyes until they cry all the time. Like, it's just...
The whole... way through.
Should be good.
Yeah, I want to read some more
Mr.
Stephen King as well. Yeah. But next up, I have The Fall by Ryan Cahill. So Ryan Cahill has been another phenomenon. I've said that word a lot today, and it's really...
It's like sing the Muppet song.
Phenomenal. And this is a novella by Ryan Cahill, and he's a recent phenomenon of the self-published world. He wrote Of Blood and Fire, which has been very, very successful.
Great title.
I've read it, and I thought it was really fantastic, so everyone should give that a go. And... yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading the novella. So,
where can we get copies of Ryan Cahill's books, Will?
Well, I believe we can get them from the Broken Binding.
Funny you should say that.
We've got quite a few Broken Binding books in here.
I reckon so. But yeah, I think Ryan Cahill's done a great job. He is self-pubbed, but all of the books look absolutely amazing, don't they?
Oh, and the covers. I forgot who the narrator is, but person not audible. Really fantastic narration. Awesome voice.
Awesome voice. We like someone with
We listened
awesome
to
voice.
The sample together, didn't we?
did,
And
yeah.
we were like, we must read this.
Absolutely. And here is a Booker Prize winners, True History of the Kelly Gang by Peter Carey. Now, the Kelly Gang, I believe, were a gang in Australia, I think in the 19th century. And I don't really know anything about them apart from that. So, I mean, kind of the period of... am I boring you?
Sorry.
Oh, I thought I wouldn't see that, Yawn. Unbelievable.
It's been a long day.
It has been a long day. But anyway, I'm really looking forward to reading this. I mean, it won the Booker Prize for a reason. So it must be good, and I think the Kelly Gang sound like they have a very fascinating history. There's a couple of films up there about the Kelly Gang, which I'm looking forward to getting to, but I'd like to read the history first before I dive into those films.
Very nice, Ed. And next up I have To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. And this is really nice little like pocket-sized edition.
How big are your pockets?
You could just like slot it in there. That would be so cool, wouldn't it? You know what? You got 5 spare minutes? Boom. But yeah,
who has 5 spare minutes nowadays?
And
who has time to read?
The font isn't actually too small. But I have read Orlando by Virginia Woolf, and I thought that it was really great, really quirky, but it's really also got like a social commentary going on at the same time. I like it when there's that kind of subtle underlayer as well as compelling characters in the main story as well. To the Lighthouse, I've only read the introduction. That's because it was the section taken up for an exam. So not the nicest memory, but yeah, I'm looking forward to reading
flashbacks.
To the Lighthouse.
Very nice. And the next one, the penultimate one for me is Aetheus by...
Oh, Aetheus.
Terribly sorry. Ian Hughes.
That's going to be an awesome read.
Now, I'm very fascinated with Attila the Hun, but before I read about Attila the Hun, I would like to read about his kind of rival, his nemesis, Aetheus. I was talking about a book I was potentially writing with Dad and talking about the kind of character I want in there, and he said it sounds like I'm looking for someone who reminds him of Aetheus. So I don't know what that means, to be honest, but it's...
Well, I think Attila the Hun was unbeaten until he lost to Aetheus.
Very nice.
In like a battle that changed history.
Spoiler alert.
Carolingian.
Well, spoiler alert. Will.
It's not a spot. It's history. It's a non-fiction book. Yeah.
Oh, it's carp something, isn't it? Carp something planes. But anyway, yeah, I think
it begins
really
with
good.
C. Now I say that it probably
the
doesn't.
Carp, yeah, it does definitely. The Catalonian
might be yes.
Catalonian
something
planes.
like yes.
Yeah, I read it on the blog. Anyway, this should be good.
And the last one by me is The Unspoken Name and the Thousand Eyes by A.K. Larkwood with some very snazzy pages. And this is another special edition from the Broken Binding. This is one I have not read. I need to read these. I've heard some really great things, and with pages like that, it's going to be a pleasant experience, isn't it?
I've been reading a lot about this period of history, such as Bury My Heart, Wounded Knee by D. Brown, which is it must be a seminal book.
That really affected you.
Yeah, it's absolutely phenomenal. I think if I was going to recommend people to read anything, then it would be that, because it's so important.
Wow,
but this, I think, I've heard that the Blood and Thunder is equally as good, and it's going to probably blow my mind with, I mean, really, the depressing nature of the American West.
A great title as well.
It is a good title, but yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to this one if I want to be sad, but it's important to learn about this kind of stuff, and I'm fascinated with this period.
Yeah,
so that is the last one for me.
It is important, isn't it? It's just about being in the right frame of mind at the time.
Absolutely.
But there we go, a book haul, a reasonably sized book haul, we hope. We've got plenty more to show off, so maybe we'll have a book haul again soon. But yeah, so that was, I think, 15 from each of us. Hopefully you enjoyed looking at our book piles, some special editions, many that we've not read, and across quite a large variety of genres. So that really just shows the kind of random readers that we are. So hopefully this has convinced you maybe to dive into some historical fiction if you haven't. Maybe a few titles intrigued you. I don't know. Hopefully it just got you reading a bit more or got you thinking about books. So thank you for watching Truth and Courage, The Brothers Gwyn.
And if you had any books that you've
not the
bought
end.
recently, then please pop them in the comments below. We'd love to hear about what
Yes.
special editions you have or what books that you think we should have in our book haul next time. We might not get to reading them very soon, but what books should we show off on the channel next? Anyway, that's all from us today. Truth and Courage from The Brothers Gwyn.
The Brothers Gwyn.